Broadcasting from deep behind enemy lines in the occupied territory of the Socialist Republic of California. Your host, former California State Assemblyman and Governor candidate, Tim Donnelly.
That's right. We are back in the Radio Free California Network studios, live here in person. We were on live remote yesterday in your old stomping grounds, San Diego. Well, Carlsbad.
Slightly in my old stomping grounds.
Did you spend a lot of time in Carlsbad?
No, sometimes.
Okay.
But not a lot of time in Carlsbad.
It was fantastic. We had over 200 people in attendance at the Green Dragon Tavern, a very, very active tea party. We got tons of signatures, and we got a lot of people involved. And what are they involved in? They're involved in defending freedom, in standing up to a government that wants to have absolute control over every aspect of your lives. But you know what's fascinating? When I read the headlines today, Donald Trump is now considered to be a possibility of winning the general election over Hillary Clinton. This was unheard of a month ago. They said, yeah, he could win the Republican primary, but there's no way he can beat Hillary. Now Hillary has dropped below 50% for the first time. Bernie Sanders is tearing it up, moving... he's moving heaven and earth while she's on her way to hell. Or the big house. We're not quite sure. But it is certainly... truth is more interesting than fiction. You couldn't make this up. You couldn't write a script for House of Cards this crazy. You probably don't watch House of Cards.
No, I don't watch House of Cards. But while we're on the Hillary Trump talk right now, there was an article about Hillary saying, her campaign put out that the emails are nothing to worry about. It's because the classifications are too strict. Yes.
Oh, that's a great argument.
We can go into that later.
Yeah.
But that's your argument? No. She's fine. It's the restrictions are too strict.
Well,
what?
Yeah. So she doesn't like the law, so she just criticizes it and she thinks that'll take care of it. I hate to tell you, the RNC is finally doing something right. They are selling Hillary-branded Secret Server wiper. You can wipe your server. Secret Server wipes.
That's hilarious.
That will clean up your server, and they're... Hold on, I got to get a picture of them here. This is too funny. But look, it's starting to weigh her down. It's like a millstone around her neck because people will put up with a lot. Americans will not knowingly, willingly elect a crook. And her complete disregard for the law has taken what was a promising campaign, what was almost a shoo-in to be the Democrat nominee, and maybe literally flushing it down the toilet. No Secret Server wipes intended. But, this is really... it's probably really painful for those in the political establishment that were really hoping for a vigorous, highbrow presidential general election between the likes of Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush, where they will wear white gloves and they will promise not to smear each other too hard because they basically believe almost exactly the same thing. And where they're most united is in their absolute contempt for ordinary, hardworking people like you. Jeb Bush doesn't care about you. Jeb Bush wants to push Common Core. Jeb Bush wants to take your guns away. Jeb Bush, let's see, Obamacare? No, won't repeal it. He actually said that. He would not push for a full repeal of Obamacare. So let me just lay that out for you just for a second. Especially for those of you who are actually thinking about voting for Jeb Bush or Hillary Clinton, I'm going to break it down into very simple language. The Republican Party, the GOP, for those of you who know what that means, most people under the age of 30 have never heard of the GOP, or maybe they think it's some geriatric organization. I don't know. But the Republican establishment, the political machinery, wants somebody in there who won't make too much noise. Somebody that will just quietly go along and do as he's told. And you're making a ton of noise there in the production booth. I don't know if you're like slamming stuff around. This is what you always accuse me of doing.
Is that what it sounds like?
Yeah, it's like a whole ton of elephants came marching through your desk.
That I'm just readjusting my microphone because I feel like I'm gonna have lots to say today.
Yeah, you are gonna have lots to say today. But look, they would love to give you a candidate who doesn't believe in anything you believe in. When it comes to having somebody who would fight on Obamacare, as I was starting to say with Jeb Bush, the GOP wants to move into this center zone, this happy zone. It's called the fiscal conservative model, okay? So let's just take that for a moment. Now, this model is not like a voluptuous model. It's a very, very serious sort of Spartan model, just the facts, ma'am. And so there's no social issues involved in this kind of conservatism. There's no Second Amendment. There's no abortion debate. There's no of these pesky little issues that have to do with the government taking control of your family, whether it's vaccinations or CPS or any of that stuff. No, this is all very clean and very nice and very, it's kind of like a white kitchen with white kitchen cabinets and white kitchen counters, and you can see where there's any speck of dirt. It's fiscal conservatism, and it's supposed to be appealing to everyone. That's why the GOP is trying to become that. Well, there's one single issue that has broader appeal than anything the GOP could cook up in the last 5 decades. And that is opposition to Obamacare. Now, it's not necessarily opposition just to socialized medicine or single payer or any of that. But the way Obamacare was put into place created a great deal of angst among working people. It created a great deal of anger among Democrats who work for a living, who are tired of paying for illegals and tired of paying for all kinds of other people getting a free ride on their dime, on their hard work. And that's why in a state like California, 45% that were polled just before the last election now oppose Obamacare, and there's only 28% of the population that will actually identify as Republican. So you'd think Jeb Bush would say, yes, I will repeal Obamacare. That would be the responsible, intelligent thing to do. And not only that, but it's one of those issues that moves people to action. When you say fiscal conservatism, you put people to sleep. When you say, I will repeal Obamacare, you're igniting the fiscal conservatism rocket. You're launching it into orbit. And now those people are going to go with you. But there's a reason. See, Jeb Bush doesn't want smaller government. He doesn't want to have the Constitution limit the powers of the government. He wants to grow government. He believes that entitlements, if you can just grow them at the right rate, are a great way to win more votes, which is exactly what the Democrats and the Marxist progressives who have taken over that party believe. So now you have two parties pushing for bigger government, and you get to pay for it. So you get Jeb Bush up there against someone like Hillary Clinton. I think Jeb Bush loses in a landslide. That's, of course, if Hillary makes it. Hey, we will take your calls throughout the show to see what you think of this new latest information, and we're going to renew our question. If you happen to be a Hillary supporter, do you still support her after all this stuff's coming out? 323-746-TALK. We will be right back after this break. Defending the fundamental freedom of parents to make informed decisions for their own children is a basic human right that should never be infringed. But it was. California's SB 277 denies children access to education and takes away a parent's right to choose. You don't have to be a parent to help, but only you can make a difference. Let's exercise the people's veto and overturn SB 277. To volunteer or donate, go to SB277referendum.com. That's SB277referendum.com. Do it now. Paid for by SB 277 Referendum Committee, FPPC ID number 1378398. Hey, you are tuned in to the Radio Free California Network, and we are broadcasting live back in our studios, back from Carlsbad. Had a great time down there. Met some amazing patriots, and it looks like we have someone that wants to talk about Jeb Bush. April from Victorville. How are you?
I'm just peachy. How are you?
I am wonderful. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks. Just before you started talking about Hillary, you were talking about Jeb, and I don't understand how anybody in their right mind could vote for Jeb Bush. And it's not because he's George's brother or anything like that. But, you know, he can't manage his own household. His children have gotten in trouble. His wife has gotten in trouble. And as far as I'm concerned, if you can't manage your own household, you have no business managing the White House.
Well, that is an interesting take. I hadn't heard that before. To me, the guy is so milquetoast. I mean, let's say that you don't like Donald Trump. Let's say that Donald Trump is not your flavor. But, I mean, he is like the alpha male, right? He is out there in your face. He shoots back. He says inappropriate things. Then you have Jeb Bush, who couldn't find his way out of a paper bag. I mean, can you imagine him taking us to war or having to make a decision or any of that? He doesn't have it.
Exactly. And the fact is that, you know, I'm all for legal immigration. If you want to come here, if we have the openings or whatever. But for him, I mean, we are being outnumbered, especially here in California, by illegals. And he doesn't have a spine. I couldn't vote for him if he's our nominee, which I don't know anybody that's going to vote for him. So I don't know how he's even anywhere on the chart. But if he's on the ballot, if he's the Republican nominee, I'm writing my own name in there because I would make a better president.
You probably would. But let me tell you how it works. I'm sure you know, but the money, the truckloads of cash that he's collected, the hundreds of millions of dollars waiting in the wings that aren't even in his campaign accounts, by the way, but are in PACs, super PACs, just waiting to unleash 50 caliber machine gun mailings against other candidates who they feel they need to eliminate. That's all they're thinking about right now. They're trying to keep Jeb all quiet and clean and out of trouble and out of the limelight, because they know that at some point this will just be about raw money where they send mail to everybody. And a lot of people just vote. They get a postcard in the mail and that's it. Whatever it says on there, they do. And, you know, if that's the Republican identified candidate and that's the only mail piece they receive, they're going.
I think that they need to change the law that you have to write an essay and prove that you are a well-informed voter before you can vote. I know that that's never going to happen.
You are.
But, I mean, some of these people are just idiots. They just say, well, I'm going to vote for Hillary because she's a woman. Well, so what?
Hey, I think people are going to vote for Donald Trump because who was it? Jay-Z and Beyonce came out and said they gave him a donation. I mean, you're going to get people voting based on the Hollywood connection.
Well, I'm still, I like Donald Trump, and I like the fact I heard today about his sister being a judge appointed by Reagan, and I'm not 100%. I'd like to see a Trump cruise ticket, something like that, or a Trump Carson ticket. I really, really want someone in the White House that's got a spine, but I really want somebody in the White House that's a Christian, that is a praying man or woman, that's going to seek God, because this country has gone so far away from God that I think that's what the majority of our problem is.
Well, it's very, very hard to disagree with that. If you had Ted Cruz there, you would certainly have someone who prays. And if you think about it, when the country was being birthed, it was a difficult birth. And there was a moment when George Washington took to his knees. You had the entire delegation. I forget who prompted it. I think it might have been Jefferson. But they prayed. They took a moment and they bowed to God and they asked for divine wisdom. And I believe he gave it, because when you look at the foundations of this country and the way that we identify where our freedoms come from, where our rights come from, they come from the Creator. They don't come from the government. And therefore, the government can't take them away. They can temporarily infringe them, but ultimately, in the end, we will be victorious in defending our natural rights, even if it takes time. But it would certainly help to have someone in the White House who had some respect for who we are.
Well, exactly. And a lot of people will say, well, they'll argue, well, they were deists. Well, what is a deist? A deist is someone that recognizes a deity that's more powerful than you. And George Washington added on his presidential oath, "So help me God," because he said it is impossible to govern a nation without God in the Bible. And so I just, I don't want to get off on a Christian tangent or whatever, but we have to be informed voters and know why we want, A, B, or C in that White House. We need someone that's going to get America back to her sovereignty and the greatness. And, someone that's going to honor where this country started and what this country is about.
And let's be clear, because I want to make sure that none of the listeners walk away from this conversation confused. You're not calling for someone to be in the White House to force their religious views on everyone and create a theocracy. You're talking about someone who prays and seeks guidance, much like Reagan did. Reagan often talked about his faith publicly, but he never tried to force it on anyone, and he often sought counsel from the Almighty. And at the same time, the key when you are in public office is you have a duty to defend the Constitution and to defend the rights and freedom of everyone to practice their faith as they see fit, which is, that's a really key point.
Well, exactly.
And I know Ted Cruz understands that. I can tell you that.
Well, and that's why they used ambiguous terms as far as nature's God and our Creator, so that you can worship God as you see fit, but not to jam it and say
Right.
you're required, because the whole intention was that, you're not going to have a government mandated religion. And they tried that with Maryland. Maryland and started out being a Catholic state, and Pennsylvania started being Quakers and all that stuff. No, I don't want any of that. You worship God as you see fit, or don't worship God if you don't want to.
That's right. It's called freedom. It's called freedom. Thank you, April, for your call. Hey, if you like shooting as much as I do, you've probably been to a lot of ranges. Unless you visited Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you've never seen anything like it. On the way there, you'll find yourself taking pictures as you traverse the majestic Azusa Canyon and wind your way up into the Angeles National Forest. With over 600 acres, including 19 private ranges, there's something for everyone. There's rifle and pistol ranges for beginners, right up to advanced shooters. And there's plenty of spaces to shoot sporting clays. You can make a family day of it, or you can bring a group for team building exercises. Bring a picnic lunch. On the weekends, they provide lunch. And don't worry, they always have ammo in case you forget yours or run out. One thing I can guarantee is that once you visited my friends at Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you'll be hooked and you'll keep coming back. BurroCanyon.com is their website, or call them at 626-910-1344, 626-910-1344. Is this ode to Donald Trump? We're not going to take it. That sounds like his battle cry. He's knocked Hillary back dramatically, tightening his position. If he were to face off against current Democrat frontrunner, yes, she is still the frontrunner, Hillary Clinton, it's tightened 10 points. He trailed Clinton by 16 points in July, and now it's only 6. 6 is almost the margin of error. That means you could be looking at the hairstylings of your new president. Don't give me that bizarre look. Okay, look. At some point, when you boil it down, it's like, this is the person we're going to be looking at for the next 4 years. So whose hair do you like better, Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton?
I'm going to go with Trump. I like that side swoopy.
Hey, by the way, he got Jay-Z and Beyonce on board, giving him money. And
okay, but why are they giving him money? He doesn't need money.
He doesn't need money.
What's it for?
So they can say they gave him money?
It's like me saying I gave you $5 because I...
Look, it was not a comprehensive news story. It was on TMZ. Okay, but...
TMZ, hey.
Okay, but...
Okay.
My whole point is a lot of people get their news from TMZ.
I know.
So they don't care why. They don't care that he needs the money. If Jay-Z's giving him money, and if Jay-Z says that the Republican Party is the one that ended slavery, then that's all that matters to a lot of low information voters, because Jay-Z said it.
Okay, but you said it. Those two words, ended slavery, Republicans. So they're... What'd you say earlier? The Hollywood media.
Oh yeah, no. This is when you get Hollywood on board, when you get celebrities hanging out with you, and you get the cool factor. That's what Obama got.
When
he was Mr. Cool. He was going out there and throwing footballs with people and hanging out and doing his, drinking beer and trying to be a regular guy, but he's hanging around with celebrities. That's what you do, and then it kind of. When somebody sees you in a picture with a celebrity, they're like, wow, you must be really how'd you get that? You know? And
I know, like when there's pictures of me with you on Facebook.
OMG. This is not the TMZ show.
Oh.
But I found it interesting that you could study American history. You could find out in your textbook that the Republican Party didn't just end slavery. The Republican Party was formed and brought into being out of the factions of other parties in order to become the anti-slavery party. Their entire reason for existence was to end slavery. They were formed out of what was left of the Democrat Party, which was horribly pro-slavery, the Whig Party, which was divided, and the Know-Nothings. And the Know-Nothings, I know it's a weird name for a party, but they were the sort of the WASPs, the white Christian Protestant, Anglo-Saxon Protestants, whatever. And they were anti-immigrant. They didn't want new people coming in. So you had all of those factions come together and form a new party. And of course, everyone knows who the first president was, right, of the Republican Party. Because we study this in history, right?
Right. So who was
Abraham Lincoln.
Oh.
But if I say it, I'm you know, a right-wing whatever, you know, talk show host. You pick your epithets. I'm tired of calling myself names, so feel free. But when I say it, or when your history teacher says it, or when your history book says it, or when PBS does something, or when somebody writes what do you call that? When it's a book 900 pages long, a tome, T-O-M-E, a tome. When somebody writes a tome about it, and there's actually an excellent book called A Team of Rivals that is written by a liberal political commentator, Doris Kearns Goodwin. But here's the thing. When Jay-Z says it, now it happened. Now it's the truth. Forget all those other sources. They're just academic. They're just political. They're just history teachers. They're just people who are older than you. But when a celebrity says it, all of a sudden people can hear it. You can't underestimate the power of that kind of force. And once you get in with one celebrity, then the celebrities start competing because they all want to hang out with whoever they think might be the next president. And those who get in early, they have the highest, they're the highest in the pecking order because they helped you when you needed it most. And so Donald Trump going to Hollywood, brilliant move. He's not out there banging against the other guys right now. He's standing alone, and he is now 6 points away from being the president. If the Democrats are dumb enough to put Hillary Clinton up, I believe as long as Donald Trump can just stay the course, you're looking at the next president of the United States. I just called it right here on the Tim Donnelly Show.
I wrote it down.
Really? That's incredible. I don't know how you multitask like that.
I know. Today, August 19th.
August 19th. Hey, it's my brother's birthday. I need to give him a call. Today is August 19th. But going back to this race, who would have thought that somebody as much as of an outsider as Donald Trump and somebody as much of an insider as Hillary Clinton would have literally switched places in a matter of 30 to 45 days? I think hold on, I got to hit my button here. Is that better? You couldn't hear it then. You couldn't have written the script. Nobody in the political establishment would have guessed such a thing. It has become gospel that Hillary will be the next president. You've got foreign governments who are banking on Hillary being the next president. And by the way, Donald Trump is being quoted as saying she's going to spend 20 years in jail. So Donald Trump participated in our poll.
He said it too?
He said it. So
I need to tell him we're friends.
Okay, well, you reach out to him, but we're going to go ahead and put that out there if you want to weigh in on Hillary's future, because I don't think we had enough people participate in the poll yet to call it a truly scientific national poll. But 323-746-TALK, that's 323-746-8255 if you want to call in. And here is... Go ahead and flip open to that page because I want to make sure that I get it absolutely right. What is Hillary's future? A, does she go all the way? B, is she make it halfway and drop out, get knocked out in the primary? C, is she roadkill on the way to Iowa? Or D, is she headed to the big house? And Donald Trump has weighed in and said he thinks she's headed to the big house, which is extraordinary. The Hillary Clinton campaign is out there saying the rules are just too tough on classified documents and it's not a big deal. Is that a person that you want to be the president of the United States? Somebody who dismisses national security and her own personal duties to comply?
Well, and what I found interesting was the next part of that. She said something about her having the personal server was more convenient. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know anything to do with you that would be about convenience.
Well, you swore an oath. It wasn't convenient to honor your oath, because the bottom line is when you swear an oath, you have to uphold that. And part of that is you're agreeing to all the terms of service. And look, you become privy to everything. And when you're entrusted with that kind of information, which could be extremely sensitive, now it might not be national security. It might only be economic security. It might be trade deals or trade secrets or what have you, but it's classified for a reason. And when you put it at risk, you put the mission at risk. And look, I am curious. I'm deeply curious, and I'm mainly interested to hear from people who love Hillary Clinton, who are planning to vote for Hillary Clinton, or who have thought about voting for Hillary Clinton. I'd like to hear if any of this news, and I'm not talking about mud being slung at her, I'm talking about facts being released by the news media, however reluctantly they are releasing them, and by the Clinton campaign. 323-746-TALK if you want to weigh in. Hey, if you like shooting as much as I do, you've probably been to a lot of ranges. Unless you visited Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you've never seen anything like it. On the way there, you'll find yourself taking pictures as you traverse the majestic Azusa Canyon and wind your way up into the Angeles National Forest. With over 600 acres, including 19 private ranges, there's something for everyone. There's rifle and pistol ranges for beginners, right up to advanced shooters. And there's plenty of spaces to shoot sporting clay. You can make a family day of it, or you can bring a group for team building exercises. Bring a picnic lunch. On the weekends, they provide lunch. And don't worry, they always have ammo in case you forget yours or run out. One thing I can guarantee is that once you visited my friends at Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you'll be hooked and you'll keep coming back. BurroCanyon.com is their website, or call them at 626-910-1344, 626-910-1344. You've heard me talk about Burro Canyon Shooting Park on this show many times. They've been a proud sponsor of the Tim Donnelly Show. And I want to let you know they've got a special offer. If you pay for a day of shooting at Burro Canyon Shooting Park and you mention the Tim Donnelly Show, you get a free hat or a coffee cup or both as long as supplies last. So head on up to my favorite place to exercise our Second Amendment right, Burro Canyon Shooting Park.
You're as cold as ice. You're willing to sacrifice our love.
Is that your tribute to Hillary Clinton?
It is.
You're just batting 1,000 here.
I am.
Well, we're going to go straight to the phones and take your calls. Christine from Victorville wants to vote. Hey, Christine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So I want to vote, and my vote is that Hillary will become roadkill on her way to Iowa.
So see.
I don't think I don't think that anything is going to come of her this legally, because I do think the rules are too easy on.
You think she gets away with it?
I do. I think she gets away with it, and I don't think that's fair. I think that she's been riding on the coattails of the popularity of the Clinton name since President Clinton was in office, and I think she sees herself as above the rules and as political royalty, and it's time for her to get a wake-up call.
Now, how does that make you feel with somebody who gets away with it when they're above the rules and the rest of us have to follow them?
It makes me really frustrated. It's very frustrating to be someone who takes the extra step to follow the rules, because doing that is not the easiest decision most of the time. And to see someone in such a high level of office that, like you said, did take a sacred oath, just kind of disregard that based on whether or not it's convenient for them to follow is ridiculous. And I feel that Trump maybe has a good chance of being the next president, because a lot of what he's saying is what a lot of us are sitting our heads laughing because he has the cojones to say it. But
interesting.
We're like going, yeah, you got it. He's right.
Now, what is it that resonates with you that Trump says?
The issues about immigration here in Southern California. I get so much extra wasted paper because of junk sent out in Spanish in every language other than English. I work with social services, and we spend so much resources on illegal immigrants that it's really sad when we see our own people and our own kids struggling, and I see so many resources going to illegal immigrants.
And you hate to see the resources wasted because it's your money too.
Yeah, exactly. It's me and my family's tax dollars, and I work with clients personally who I know could benefit with things if we had the dollar to go a little bit further, and it would if we were putting our own citizens first.
Yeah, charity should start at home.
Absolutely.
But see, that doesn't serve the purpose of. I like how Trump identified it. He didn't say the political establishment like I say. He said the globe-trotting billionaire donors who have basically bought off the political establishment. It doesn't serve their purpose because they want a controllable population, and this new illegal population basically is the key to power, because they can get both the Republicans and the Democrats to pander to them, but they're really pandering to the billionaires. And then, of course, the mega monolithic global corporate operators want dirt cheap labor where they can just skip all the rules and basically exploit people.
And the situation in Huntington Park, I think, is what pushed me over the edge, where this guy put into office two of his personal friends who are illegal immigrants. He gave them positions, and we're not allowed legally to employ illegal immigrants. And he holds a position in Huntington Park, and he's a political officer that we look to for direction. And this is the choice he makes. I'm just baffled.
I think a lot of people agree with you. As a matter of fact, we're going to be playing a clip coming up in the next segment with a clip from that particular hearing. And it really struck a nerve with a lot of Americans. And Christine, I think you're certainly not alone in your outrage because, look, it's one thing to say, hey, let's be Christians. Let's be tolerant. Let's be, what's the right word? Kind.
Charitable.
Charitable. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Let's be charitable. Let's make sure that you have, a meal and a safe place to sleep before we send you back home. I think that's fair. If you've come here illegally and you've been apprehended, then, we should treat you decently. That's all. It's human decency. But
Absolutely.
But to hand out the ability to become a lawyer, to take every state license and remove the identification requirement so illegals can get state licenses paid for by tax dollars, not only is wrong morally, but it's illegal on a federal level. And then all of the other myriad of benefits, including college tuition, and really, you could basically go to college for free if you're an illegal, but not if you're a veteran. If you moved here from out of state, you're screwed. You got to pay out of state rates. So I think you make a great case for Donald Trump, and I think Hillary is losing votes, and she may be losing some votes to Donald. Literally,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of Democrats out there that the illegal immigration issue resonates with, who might be saying, hey, you know what? Donald Trump doesn't strike me as much of a Republican. He's so crazy, outspoken, and the Republicans seem to hate him, so I like him. Who knows? We will see, but we got to take a quick break. Thanks for your call.
Thanks. Bye.
Meanwhile, back in California, we brought you a story, it was about a week ago, about the black balls that they are putting in reservoirs in Los Angeles. There was this big thing where they dumped, what was it, 96 million black balls into this massive 175-acre reservoir.
Right. And at the time, they were claiming the reasons to be, what was it?
Well, they said it was going to provide shade. It would keep the water clear. It would keep it from algae from forming, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And our reaction, mine being from the plastics industry and yours being from just common sense.
Being a human being.
With a brain, unlike many of those in government. Black plastic in the hot sun.
Marinating in water that we're supposed to be drinking.
Yeah.
That already has chemicals in it.
When it's dangerous to go to Walmart and buy a case of water and leave it in your car, right? Because then you're going to get the... I can see the word, but I can't say it. It's like phenobarbital or what the heck is it? Anyway, it'll come to me in the middle of the night. But it's basically a butylene, which is a type of plastic that your water bottles are made of.
Propylene.
Well, I don't think it's a propylene.
Oh,
and
another one.
and I don't think it's just a polyethylene. But there's a butylene that is released when the sun bakes it. So if it makes your drinking water dangerous, why in the world would they dump plastic into the reservoir? Well, we've decided to bring friend of the Tim Donnelly Show, also a good friend of Kelly Carlson, the actress that you might know from Nip Tuck, Dennis Santiago, who is a consultant and an all-around, he's getting all over the place on a whole lot of issues. Dennis, welcome back to the show.
Hey, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Hey, we saw you quoted in this Fox News article, and it's fast. What are they thinking?
Well, I mean, it's what I think they're thinking, and what this article points out is City Hall really has to be a bit more careful about when it makes claims about what's actually going on here now. So what's really happening, if you listen to the Department of Water and Power people and they explain what it is they did and why they did it, is there's an EPA requirement to cover potable water reservoirs. And that's because the chemicals that they put into the water to kill off the bacteria and make the water safe to drink combines a couple of chemicals that break down and produce a third chemical if they're exposed to the sun. So you're supposed to cover this stuff. And there's an EPA regulation that's been around since, I think, 2006 or 2008 that says you got to go do this kind of stuff. And LA has been trying to figure out a strategy for putting a cover over its water reservoirs, which are huge. This one's 175 acres. Instead of building hard covers, real shade covers over things. I think the article quoted that there's one reservoir somewhere in New York where they think it's going to cost $1.6 billion.
Right, that's the Yonkers Reservoir.
Yeah. And, which is really expensive. So LA come up with this particular approach to it, which is to say, make a floating cover. And there are floating covers that are available to put over bodies of water. These cover balls are one of them. The reason they're black and the reason they do that is because they want to maximize the shade, because they don't want the sun getting down into the water and breaking down the chemicals that are mixed into the reservoir to make the water safe to drink. That's the reason. That's the science behind what they did. It got a little bit of spin from City Hall when they said it also, prevents evaporation and stuff like that, which is where I took a little bit of issue with it, because it doesn't really, if you look at the science, that's not really what its purpose is.
Yeah, and it also begs the question, okay, so you said you don't want the chemicals to react with the sun, right? But what about the polyethylene black balls that have carbon put into them for the colorant? What about that? What if that breaks down? What does that do to our water supply?
Well, okay. So according to the literature, I looked at the literature on these particular types of products. They've got a in the water shelf life of about 10 to 20 years is the expected stuff, and they'll break down after a while and crack and stuff like that. The coloration of them being black is because they're the plastic itself is impregnated with carbon. And carbon acts as a ultraviolet light absorber, which means that what's underneath on the bottom side of the cover gets very little of the type of light that actually causes the reactions in the chemicals that are mixed in the water that produce unwanted combinations if they're exposed to sunlight. So from that perspective, the choosing of the color for that purpose makes sense, because they're trying to prevent stuff happening in the water. What it does in the end is it's probably a wash between that they're covering the lake a little bit, but it's also going to be warmer because it's absorbing more heat. And the evaporation rate, I'm kind of thinking it's probably going to be about the same.
Yeah, well, but Matt McLeod from the California biotech firm Modern Moon Farm said he thinks it's going to be a bacterial nightmare, a disaster. That black spheres resting in the hot sun will form a thermal blanket, speeding evaporation, as well as providing a huge amount of new surface area for the hot water to breed bacteria. I mean, Is he completely out of line, or are they putting chlorine in there? And what happens when you put chlorine in polyethylene? I mean, have they thought this through, Dennis, or is this?
Well, actually, all this stuff comes out of a fairly large body of water treatment science, and and the reporter that wrote the story, Holly McKay, had me reading like PDF documents of scientific papers with formulas of chemical reactions in them. Right? She owes me a beer for that. But
duly noted.
Duly noted.
By the way, if you just so you know, if you came in to the Radio Free California Network studios on a Friday, we would provide one.
Oh, well, hey, count me in. But the water is actually treated, and the reason they need the cover is because they have put a combination of a chlorine compound and a bromine compound in the water that kills the bacteria, and also breaks down things like bird droppings and stuff like that add nitrates and other things into the water. It's treated water.
It just makes me want to go out and drink some LA water right now listening to this.
If you have an open body of water, stuff like that's going to happen. And then that's what the water treatment thing is for. So it's treated. It's already treated water. What the EPA rule is about making sure that those water treatment chemicals stay stable in the water and aren't broken down by the sun, so that the treatment fails and then you can have bacterial growth in the water.
Yeah. Well, we are going to be keeping a very close eye on the Black Ball Reservoir. It just doesn't bode well. I mean, the black ball in pool, it's always an ominous sign to me. Maybe because it's always rolling against me. But
are you kidding? I mean, have you driven by the thing to take a look at it as you're driving down the freeway?
No, I have not yet done that.
Oh, you should. I've gone by it a few times. At first, I didn't know this is what they were doing, because I drove by it and I said, hey, that lake's empty. Right? No, it wasn't empty. I was looking at the top of the black balls, and now that I was there the last time I drove by it, I said, my God, that lake looks ominously dark.
Well, we shall have to check it out, and we thank you for coming on the show again today, Dennis, and keep up the good work. You do risk analysis with Total Bank Solutions, is that right?
Yeah. Among the many other things that seem to drag on my life, I actually do have a day job.
Well, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your time to explain this.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
We will be right back after this short break with the promised segment on Huntington Park. Stay tuned. Defending the fundamental freedom of parents to make informed decisions for their own children is a basic human right that should never be infringed. But it was. California's SB 277 denies children access to education and takes away a parent's right to choose. You don't have to be a parent to help, but only you can make a difference. Let's exercise the people's veto and overturn SB 277. To volunteer or donate, go to SB277referendum.com. That's SB277referendum.com. Do it now. Paid for by SB 277 Referendum Committee, FPPC ID number 1378398.
I've seen for myself, there's no end to grief. That's how I know.
Only in California. We're doing a Meanwhile in California segment, but some things, black ball reservoirs We'll have to check that out next time driving by on the freeway, but I'm going to take you to Huntington Park, California, which was referenced by April from Victorville. This has become another proving ground for the agenda of the Marxist progressives and those who wish to undermine completely the rule of law in the United States of America. And they're starting in California. But not everyone's on board. And when you hear this clip, by the way, this clip was up on Drudge Report. This clip was brought to us. We talked about it yesterday with Breitbart reporter Michelle Moons, who just, all she did is show up and record it. Check it out.
Listen, many of you guys don't know me back here, but I'll go ahead and introduce myself a little, just quickly. Who am I? I'm a guy that has been volunteering cleaning up our city for many years now. I've been living here in the city for 35 years, and I can honestly tell you, I take down every ad, every graffiti, every sticker, every piece of trash that I see on the boulevard. I pick it up and I put it in the trash. Thank you. I can honestly tell you guys, I've been here for 35 years. And I can look at you straight in the eyes, every single one of you. I never even knew these guys existed till now. I've never seen them in my life. All of a sudden, they're going to get rewarded by breaking federal laws, ladies and gentlemen. And if I'm not mistaken, I ask myself, doesn't the city of Huntington Park receive federal money? But yet, you break federal laws, or you reward people that break federal laws. We are a country, yes, but in this country we have laws and rules and regulations that need to be followed. How can we be a great nation when we reward people that come to this country? I don't have anything against immigrants, but there's a difference between immigrant and illegal immigrants. And I ask myself, what part of illegal don't you guys understand?
Don't you think it's about time you treat yourself or someone you love to something very special? Well, Ozell Jewelers, the finest jewelry store in the high desert, is known throughout the high desert for having the largest variety of fine-looking jewelry and gifts for every special occasion. Ozell custom designs and manufactures their own jewelry, so you'll be able to find exclusive, one-of-a-kind, stunning styles you won't find anywhere else in Southern California. If you're looking for fine jewelry at unbeatable prices, Ozell Jewelers is the place to go. Show appreciation to that special person in your life with something special to cherish forever. Ozell Jewelers, voted best jewelers in the high desert by the Daily Press regularly for years. Ozell Jewelers has been putting smiles on high desert faces for over 30 years. Ozell Jewelers in Rancho Cucamonga, Palm Desert, and Amargosa Road by Red Lobster in Victorville. Ozell Jewelers.
Fox News Radio, I'm Jane Metzler. A red flag warning now in effect, meaning gusty winds will make fighting western wildfires even more difficult. Nearly 100 are burning in 10 western states. Fox News Radio's Jessica Rosenthal has the latest live.
Jane, some of the worst wildfires are in Washington state, where spokesman Kel Casey says while they have some containment on some of the fires, including the Chelan complex, which has burned the most acres and the most homes, they're now dealing with way worsening weather conditions.
We are getting absolutely no help from Mother Nature at all. It is very dry. We had a red flag warning start today at 11 a.m., and it doesn't end until Friday at 5 p.m.
Resources are being stretched to the limit. 200 active military soldiers have begun wildfire training, and officials say they're bringing in crews to the northern Rockies from Canada, Jane.
Thanks, Jessica. The western drought causing another disturbing side effect in California. NASA scientists finding parts of the state are sinking. His wife filing for divorce almost immediately after former Subway spokesman Jared Fogle agrees to plead guilty to child pornography charges.
He's accused of trading child pornography and paying for sex with minors in Indiana and New York. And the former Subway pitchman will soon head to prison after agreeing in federal court to plead guilty to charges and to pay $1.4 million to his victims.
Jared also knows that he has a medical problem. He has already sought evaluation, and he will seek appropriate treatment.
Fogle attorney Ron Elberger, the case is connected to Fogle's business partner, who was arrested months earlier on similar charges. Fogle's family also reacting, saying they hope he gets the help he needs.
Fox Radio's Jeff Vanasso. A powerful explosion at a Motel 6 in Bremerton, Washington, critically injuring a gas company worker. 2 people unaccounted for. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
Confessions of a Potentially Perfect Parent, brought to you by AdoptUsKids.org.
I might look like an adult, like a person who could possibly be a parent, but I have no idea how to talk like one. And everyone knows that if you want to be a parent, you have to sound good when you say things like, "Don't make me turn this car around," or "Because I said so," or "Don't make me come back there." I don't even really know what those things mean, but I know that I actually believed my parents when they said them to me. How did they manage to sound so convincing? Here we go. "Don't make me come back there." Ugh, no, that's not tough enough at all. Kids can sense weakness. "Don't make me come back there." Ooh, yeah, that's better. In fact, that kind of sounded like my dad. Weird.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to listen to you practice your dad voice. Call 1-888-200-4005 or visit AdoptUsKids.org for more information. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
Iran inspecting itself? Reading the fine print of the Iran nuclear deal, the Associated Press reporting there's a side agreement that would allow Iranians to inspect a military site instead of international experts. Republicans call the agreement incredibly naive. Hillary Clinton's campaign responding to a Fox News report about emails she received on her private server while she was Secretary of State. Clinton insisted she never received any classified material. Fox's Catherine Herridge reporting 2 emails were classified. Clinton campaign spokesman Brian Fallon says the controversy stems from a disagreement between the State Department and the FBI.
We think that this says more about the bent towards secrecy within some corners of the government. It says more about that than it does about Hillary Clinton's email practices.
There's a White House link to a cyber leak involving a website that fosters extramarital affairs.
According to hackers who have uncovered information on Ashley Madison's clients, there are 44 emails registered on the site with a whitehouse.gov address. The largest non-military user of Ashley Madison appears to be the Department of Veterans Affairs. The Federal Bureau of Prisons is close behind. Altogether, more than 15,000 of the email addresses used to register accounts were hosted on government and military servers. The hackers had threatened to publicly out the potential adulterers if the site's owner, Avid Life Media, did not shut down Ashley Madison.
Fox Radio's John Decker. A 3-judge panel threw out 5 of his 18 corruption convictions. Former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich was hoping the full Court of Appeals might toss even more. Not a single judge expressed any interest. I'm Jane Metzler, Fox News Radio.
You are listening to the Radio Free California Network, and I am your host, former California State Assemblyman Tim Donnelly, and gubernatorial candidate. Let's not forget that. we were listening to a clip, and it was clipped. So we're going to roll it again. This is Huntington Park, California, a citizen who is up in arms over the fact that they appointed 2 illegal aliens to a commission that is sponsored and paid for by the city.
Listen, many of you guys don't know me back here, but I'll go ahead and introduce myself a little just quickly. Who am I? I'm a guy that has been volunteering cleaning up our city for many years now. I've been living here in the city for 35 years, and I can honestly tell you, I take down every ad, every graffiti, every sticker, every piece of trash that I see on the boulevard. I pick it up and I put it in the trash. Thank you. I can honestly tell you guys, I've been here for 35 years. And I can look at you straight in the eyes, every single one of you. I never even knew these guys existed till now. I never seen them in my life. All of a sudden, they're going to get rewarded by breaking federal laws, ladies and gentlemen. And if I'm not mistaken, I asked myself, doesn't the city of Huntington Park receive federal money? But yet, you break federal laws, or you reward people that break federal laws. We are a country, yes, but in this country we have laws and rules and regulations that need to be followed. How can we be a great nation when we reward people that come to this country? I don't have anything against immigrants, but there's a difference between immigrant and illegal immigrants. And I ask myself, what part of illegal don't you guys understand? I mean, even a 2-year-old, it's kind of funny how I could honestly tell you, if I'm hungry and if I'm starving, and if I break into somebody's house illegally, I'm going to go to jail. But if I go and knock on somebody's door and say, man, I'm really hungry. Can you do me a favor? Could you please make me a sandwich? That's the proper way to ask for something. You shouldn't get rewarded by breaking up a law and say, oh, it's because I was hungry. Oh, okay, so hey, let's all go to Huntington Park. Let's all break doors over there because they never do anything. In fact, they'll probably reward you by breaking federal laws. And by that, I'm very deeply disgusted. And it's very, very sad, to be honest with you. And I hope that you guys take that under consideration, that, not every immigrant that is here illegally. Truly. And that's the difference. There's a right way to do things and the wrong way. People shouldn't get rewarded by doing the wrong thing. It's not fair for guys like me. And it's not fair for other people as well. Thank you very much.
And that is a legal immigrant. Someone who came here the right way, who is making a clear distinction. He's a 35-year-old resident, or 35-year resident of the city. I'm going to go to the phones and take your calls for reaction. Hey, welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show. You're on air.
Hello.
Yes, you are live on air.
Yes, this is Lila Babante in Kern, California.
Yes.
And when this was brought to my attention on your show, which I was really alarmed, that I called Sharon Groves. I also called Gene Fuller's office, and they checked it out. And I was told that if the person, and I don't agree with this, but this is the rule, that if a person, an immigrant, illegal immigrant, takes on a job with, like Huntington Park did, and they are not paid for it, they receive no pay, that it's lawful.
Well, it is more than likely not lawful when you look at federal law, because it isn't about whether or not they actually receive a paycheck. That may satisfy California law, but in the federal law, if you give anyone a taxpayer-paid benefit, so a commission that is paid for by the taxpayers, the room that they meet in is paid for, the water that comes into that building and the electricity, all the utilities and the lights are all paid for by the taxpayers. And they are there in a very unique position to shape policy, even though they claim they won't be, but they are. And that has now been given to someone who has no legal right to occupy any role in government because they don't have a legal right to actually live in this country. And that's where the issue is for most people.
Okay, I see what you're saying, and I understand what you are saying. But even according to federal law, if they do not receive pay in their hand, we have no issue that we can raise and say they're doing wrong.
I'm gonna absolutely disagree with you. This has nothing.
Would you check it out?
This has not.
Would you check it?
Well, no, I know the federal law. I'm telling you the federal law. I was in the California State Assembly, but long before that, I was an activist on this particular issue. And the bottom line is, the problem is nobody enforces the federal law. Let's just be clear on that. It's also illegal to have a sanctuary city. It is absolutely 100% illegal to not fully 100% comply with immigration authorities when you are a law enforcement agency at the city, state, or county level. But California made a law that is completely violates federal law, and nobody in the federal government does anything about it, and that's why people are being killed by criminals who are being released onto the streets. So it is illegal, but nobody cares until somebody's dead.
And they don't even care then.
Well, a lot of us do, but
well, we do. But I mean, as far as getting justice, we have a very difficult time in California getting justice.
I will agree with you on that 100%.
Yeah, and I agree with you too. I didn't call to argue. I only called to say what was given to me.
Hey, I like how feisty you are. What is your first name?
Leela.
Leela. No, I look. The bottom line is that I'm not out here saying that these things are illegal on a minute level. They are morally wrong. They are wrong in violations of federal law, but we don't enforce it. It has no teeth, so nobody cares. But a lot of people, including the fact that an actual immigrant, I don't like calling them legal immigrants, because you're either an immigrant and you came here legally through the process, or you're an illegal alien who came here unlawfully and invaded our country without our permission. Those are the only two classifications. Right. I don't bear any ill will against you unless you're an illegal alien killer. If you're an illegal alien killer, criminal, or rapist, murderer, whatever, you're going to have a big issue with me. That's why I don't want to let the government take away our gun rights, because they can't protect us. That's the bottom line. And so in the end, the only thing we have is the rule of law. And the rule of law has to apply to Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump equally. It has to apply to you and I equally. And it has to apply to those who come into this country illegally. They must suffer the consequence, which means they're sent home. It doesn't mean they're sent home. They're not sent in a boxcar to a concentration camp. They are simply sent home to a country that, yes, is suffering a major need for a political revolution and an overhaul, because it's controlled largely by drug cartels, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking about Mexico or many of the other Central American countries. But I don't want that here. I don't want a country where there is no rule of law, because once you have that, then the very, very rich and powerful form an oligarchy. They control everything, and then you have mob rule with the very, very poor and needy, and the middle class that pays for everything just gets screwed.
I appreciate you very much. I am ready for the next move.
I will keep that in mind, Leela.
What?
I just
want to know. You give it to us on the air. Now what do we do? I'm not satisfied. What can you and I and our people in the state of California, with what we know is happening now with the illegal in this position, what is there for you and I to do? I'm willing to do it.
I will ponder.
petition?
I will ponder on your question, and I will come up with an answer, a thoughtful answer, because many of the things that I thought would work in the past have not. And,
I appreciated Gene Fuller's office to check it out. And then they called me and told me what I shared with you. And I thought, well, as long as they're not getting paid for it, then we have nothing we can say. But you're saying something that is deeper understanding and something that you know. And so I think we need to follow through with what you know. Otherwise, why be on the radio, or why should I listen if there isn't something that I can do? And I've lived in California. I was born here. I've been to Mexico many times, taken vacations. And I know people go in and out of the border. I know people now in my own town. I mean, it's just almost slipped through our fingers. So I'm others to listen.
Leila,
I wanted to say not left up in the air. So what you can do, let me know.
I will do that. Thank you for your call. And we are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back after these messages. Whether you're an experienced shooter or just buying your first gun, Turner's Outdoorsman has everything you need, along with a knowledgeable and friendly staff to help you find that perfect gear for your next adventure. Turner's now has 18 locations across Southern California, including a Victorville location right on Bear Valley Road. Be sure to check out the new Archery Pro shops in the Victorville, Chino Hills, and Pasadena locations. If you're not sure what you're looking for, you can browse and shop their selection at turners.com. Be sure to check out their weekly specials and sign up to get them delivered directly to your inbox. Turner's is where I turn for all my firearms and ammo needs. Remember to tell them Tim Donnelly sent you, and you'll get an additional discount. You are tuned to the Radio Free California Network. I am your host, former California State Assemblyman Tim Donnelly, and we've been talking about what's going on in Huntington Park. What do you do? Well, first of all, I want to respond to Layla from Inyo, Kern County. Beautiful area up there, by the way. Love driving up there. I'm long overdue for a beautiful scenic drive. Thinking of taking my boys up there to do some fishing. But look, one of the most effective things you can do is stand up and speak out. And Francisco, the legal immigrant who did that, he isn't citing laws, he's citing moral authority. So I would say share that video with everyone you know, and don't get caught up in the minutia of whether or not something that you know is fundamentally morally wrong is defended by those in power, because that's what they do. Now, it's not their fault. If they want to research the law, that's great, but this is wrong. It's wrong on so many levels. It was wrong when we gave free college tuition to people who had come into the country illegally and gone to a high school for 3 years in California. Meanwhile, we didn't offer that same benefit to our veterans who were transferred through no fault of their own into the state of California for service. I proposed a bill back when I was in the assembly to take all of the money we give to people who have come into the country illegally and instead shift it into a pool that is available for veterans, their spouses, and their family, their children, who are transferred into California, who are defending the country, who are serving their time, why not offer them the same benefits you were willing to offer illegals for the past decade? Offer it to them. Because I don't know about you, but I'd rather have a veteran living next door than somebody who's in the country illegally for a whole lot of reasons. And I don't have anything against people who have come here illegally on a personal level, but when you undermine the rule of law, you create all kinds of pathologies, because now you have people who are hiding. You have people who are doing everything wrong. They're breaking all kinds of other laws. They steal people's identities. They live sometimes 20 people in a house. They don't have any regard for zoning laws. Why? Why should they? If we aren't going to enforce our border, why would we enforce any of our other laws? So you create the broken window effect, the reverse of it. The broken window theory being one promulgated by the mayor of New York many years ago, that if you fix the broken windows in a neighborhood, if you clean things up and tidy the street, then crime is less likely to happen. You're less likely to draw the wrong element into your community. Show some pride. Take care of it. But it actually works. It makes a certain amount of sense. Well, by default, in a state like California, we have Marxist progressives who control our legislature, who there's not one single benefit they are not willing to give and carve out and give to people who have come here illegally. Because they depend on that population for future power. They see that as a future pool of votes. Some of those who own businesses, big businesses that are heavily dependent on labor, largely in agriculture, they see it as a source of cheap labor. So, and it's not just agriculture. It's construction, hospitality, your hotels. Pretty much everywhere you go, you're told that, hey, nobody else will do these jobs, and yet we have a record number of Americans out of work. I know when I was out of work as a young man, I was willing to do pretty much anything. So I don't ascribe to that theory, but I'm going to see what you think. Got to take a quick break, and we will be right back here at the Tim Donnelly Show. Hey, if you like shooting as much as I do, you've probably been to a lot of ranges. Unless you visited Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you've never seen anything like it. On the way there, you'll find yourself taking pictures as you traverse the majestic Azusa Canyon and wind your way up into the Angeles National Forest. With over 600 acres, including 19 private ranges, there's something for everyone. There's rifle and pistol ranges for beginners, right up to advanced shooters. And there's plenty of spaces to shoot sporting clay. You can make a family day of it, or you can bring a group for team building exercises. Bring a picnic lunch. On the weekends, they provide lunch. And don't worry, they always have ammo in case you forget yours or run out. One thing I can guarantee is that once you visited my friends at Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you'll be hooked and you'll keep coming back. BurroCanyon.com is their website, or call them at 626-910-1344, 626-910-1344. I think a lot of people are headed for the door and trying to get out of California for this exact reason, but I'm going to go right to the phones and see if our patient caller can be heard. Hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tim, good evening. How are you?
Hey, it's great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
That sounds like John from North Carolina.
It is, exactly. You just bumped right up against what I was calling about. As I was down on the phone, you said you're talking about the permanent underclass for these voters, and for the life of me, that's the only way they can win, but why? I can't figure out why they want to dominate and run everybody's life the way from 277 to the health care. Why do they think they have to be in control of everybody's life? I can't put my arms around why they think they have to do that.
I think you've stumbled onto a great question, which is.
And the other point you just made was one of mine. I couldn't live in California. I'd have been gone a decade at least ago. Yeah, no, I got you. Look, somebody's got to stay here on the front lines, John. Don't try to get me in North Carolina. I used to live there, you know. No. And I'm not doing it. And you're doing exactly an awesome, great thing. And that's the kind of people you need out there to keep up the fight. And I think you're gaining on it rapidly by the sounds of it. By the sounds of the Green Dragon last night and the callers I'm hearing, I think you're gaining on it drastically. Well, I think we are. And I think we are for a number of reasons. This SB 277 has really brought out a whole new coalition of people. But I believe there's always been a coalition of people that stood against the undermining of the rule of law. Let's forget about using terms like immigration or illegal immigration or any of that. The undermining of the rule of law. And it's the same thing whether it's Hillary saying I'm above the law. That resonates with ordinary Americans because they know deep down in their hearts that there is this great injustice. And injustice is something that we always stand against. When you can have one person be above the law because they're super rich or in a position of power, and they abuse that position in order to escape the consequences of their actions. And then at the other end, you have a let me speak here, protected political class that those in power want to exploit, whether for cheap labor or cheap votes, it doesn't matter, but they want to exploit them. So they're willing to carve out, create exemptions, and essentially draw them deeper and deeper into and hook them into society. Is it kind of like the Congress and their aides being exempt from Obamacare? Exactly. Exactly. There is a corruption. It is a quiet corruption that then infects the entire. And then, John, when you go and say, "Hey, wait a minute, I do not want to support this whole modern day indentured servant, modern day slavery. I don't want to support it. So I'm not going to buy products from companies that hire illegals." And but there's a whole other group of people that will say, "Well, wait a minute. See, you're responsible because you're benefiting from the cheap lettuce and the cheap tomatoes and things you don't have any control over." And what's funny about that is you have a lot of companies like Walmart and Costco that import products, agricultural products from Chile and Mexico and other places because it's actually cheaper to get them here to market than it is to deal with all the myriad of laws and oppression by regulation that a California farmer has to go through, or the lack of water, or the lack of any ability to have any control over your labor force. And I'm to the point in my life where I don't want to think real hard anymore. I'll take those. I hate to use the word neck down, but pay me from the neck down. I'd rather do that because the high tech and everything I do is getting so cumbersome and so regulated by the EPA. I don't really want to tell you what I do, but I just soon go out and work my tail off 8-10 hours a day and go home and not worry about it. But I worry about what I do 24/7. Wow. Well, I think there's a lot of people. And look, there's I don't worry about it. I think about it. Well, there's an awful lot of Americans, John, that are out of work, and they're worried about the next meal. They're worried about whether they can pay the rent or they're going to get evicted or how many months they're behind, and they'll take any job. Yep. But you can't take any job if illegals have essentially taken over that industry and you can't work there because you don't speak the language. And that happens on a lot of construction sites. They got to have everybody be able to communicate with each other.
And it used to be English. Now it's largely Spanish. And if you don't speak it, you're out. So there's maybe a fallback job that is no longer available to American citizens or to our children who we want to go out and learn how to work hard. And then you don't even get me started on manufacturing. We get it coming and going. I was in manufacturing for 20 years. Mm-hmm. We watched first a ton of it went to Mexico with NAFTA, and then a lot of it came back. But then when China kicked in Southeast Asia, I mean, you couldn't believe the giant sucking sound of plastic manufacturing going overseas. And before it went there, one of the biggest suppliers that was in my field of work, my line of work, went over there and built their own factory. They put $30 million into a factory. And I didn't think much of it because I just figured I don't have any access to sell in those markets anyway. But then they began to ship the parts they were making back into the United States. And I was making stuff all over the country, but I couldn't compete. They were bringing stuff in and selling it below my cost to buy it. Yep. Because there's no environmental regulations. They're destroying the environment. Whereas here, we have the highest environmental regulations in the world to where you can't even chrome plate a piece of steel anymore effectively in California. You've got to go to Nevada or Arizona and cross a border in order to use the right kind of chrome plating. But that costs money, that costs fuel, that costs time, that makes it more expensive. And they just bring it in from China and they crushed the industry for those who were here. And that right there is just, I'm just one guy who saw that up close and personal. So to me, the rule of law is very important. And I don't know. I think there's a lot of people out there that right now they just like to work, don't you think?
Oh, certainly, yeah. And I actually quit buying. I don't know if I can say the name of the shoe company. Am I allowed to name a company?
Sure, free country.
I used to wear Red Wing boots. I bought probably $1,000 worth of boots off them over 10, 15, 20-year period. So I thought, well, I'm going to trade. I'm going to go to a different brand. I went to Wolverine. I got them home. I should have looked at the store. I pulled the tongue out, and they're made in the Dominican Republic. So I can ship my Red Wing overseas boots back to Red Wing, Minnesota to have them resold, which is what the beauty of Red Wings were, because I used to. That's when they get comfortable. They're both broken in.
Sure.
Parasols, great. So I was like, man, I'm just batting zero here right now. But yeah, it frustrates the heck out of me. But this permanent underclass that they think they have to have for whatever, put some good policies in place and clean America up so everybody that lives here is number one, and put people back to work. And I think everybody would be a whole lot happier if they had something to go every day.
Yeah. John, I couldn't have said it better. Love the story. Love the call. We're going to take a quick break here, but thanks for calling in. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, man, thank you, and good job at the Green Dragon last night. I listened to it, and sounds like you had a really good turnout.
We had a great time. Hey, we'll
all right, take care.
Be right back after these messages. Defending the fundamental freedom of parents to make informed decisions for their own children is a basic human right that should never be infringed. But it was. California's SB 277 denies children access to education and takes away a parent's right to choose. You don't have to be a parent to help, but only you can make a difference. Let's exercise the people's veto and overturn SB 277. To volunteer or donate, go to SB277referendum.com. That's SB277referendum.com. Do it now. Paid for by SB 277 Referendum Committee, FPPC ID number 1378398.
California, then we fell into the shiny sea. The weight that drags your heart down.
Hey, you are listening to the Radio Free California Network, and I am your host, former California State Assemblyman and governor candidate Tim Donnelly. And John is right. We had an incredible live remote yesterday from the Green Dragon Tavern in Carlsbad. If you haven't been there, it's actually a really cool place. They've got a museum. They've got portraits of all the presidents. They've got pilgrims. They've got patriots galore and all kinds of information. And it's literally a recreation. When you're inside, and when we were inside with the Tea Party who packed out the house, you could have been somewhere back in time. It certainly was. There was a feeling, there was an undercurrent of revolution, political revolution in the air. And people organized with a very clear idea what they're doing. And I have to say, I was honored to be a part of it. It was a lot of fun, and we will be doing more live remotes, so stay tuned. Meanwhile, back here in California, as you may know, they are holding right now a special session. Are they holding a special session to resolve the water crisis? I mean, that would be a really good idea, because it's a largely government-created crisis, especially at this point when you look at the fact they haven't even begun construction on any of the dam projects. We've had but we certainly have had some promising rainfalls, and what seems to be an indication, almost a foreshadowing of things to come with what they call El Nino, which is, torrential rainfall. Now, torrential rainfall doesn't do us any good if it just runs off and runs out to sea. Now, that might help the Delta smelt, who is rapidly disappearing because of the drought, but it isn't going to help the farmers. It isn't going to help the average ordinary citizen. And it was interesting last night in the meeting, there was a couple who said goodbye to California. And they said that the final straw for them was when the governor was controlling and looking to seize control over groundwater and looking to fine individuals for taking showers too long. I think it reeked too much of a totalitarian state. And now we have a story that Jerry Brown is actually going to seize people's farms in order. He's going to use eminent domain. He's not going to buy the farm. He's going to seize the farm so that he can build his multi-billion-dollar underground water tunnel project, which you might think that makes a certain amount of sense. But the whole purpose of that was just to save a species that is largely irrelevant to California, that was reintroduced or introduced to California and doesn't serve any significant purpose, the Delta smelt. I don't know about you, but the idea of the government coming in and stealing someone's land, I'm sure they're obviously going to pay them whatever. But they're not going to pay them market value because the property wasn't for sale. They're going to pay them whatever they feel like paying them. And if you don't like it, you can fight the government. Good luck with that. But you got people who have 150-year-old farms, and the government is going to take them through the condemnation process. I'm trying to figure out if there's any limit to the power that they're exercising over the citizens here in the state of California. But back to what they're doing in Sacramento, they're looking for a way to raise taxes so they can finish increasing spending on all the new social programs that they want to foist on you. Simple as that. They have the largest budget in California history They have spent more money and committed more money than they have coming in. Now, they might tell you they have a projection of X amount of dollars coming in, but for every dollar that is coming in, they spend 2 or 3. That's the way Sacramento has always worked. And now it's on steroids because Jerry Brown is bragging about a surplus, but people are still leaving the state. And all the people who are leaving California are tax-paying, productive citizens. And most of the people, the net influx of people who are coming here are people who are lower income and qualify for government programs. Well, you can't sustain that. You can't kick the taxpayers. You can't kick the job creators. You can't kick those who pay for everything, who make everything work. You can't kick them out it's better to say drive them out. They're not being kicked out, but they're choosing to respond to the climate. And the climate isn't friendly. And so therefore they're leaving. They're leaving for states like Texas and Nevada and Arizona and New Mexico and other places. Yes, by the way, Donald Trump did not build a fence around New Mexico. For all of those listeners from New Mexico, that was just a satire. But you're taking this incredible state, the state that I moved here. I chose to come here. So I'm not native born. I guess I'm an immigrant of sorts. I'll accept that. I came here in my VW Bug. Yeah, I've got a picture of it right in front of me. I had hair, sunglasses. I was looking pretty cool. Surfboard sticking out the back. I came here for the California dream. I came here to be part of a state where anything was possible. But I don't think any of us ever imagined a government that would give rights to people who came illegally, that would deny rights to 200,000 kids, kick them out of school if they're missing a single booster shot, all because of a manufactured crisis that seems to benefit, or does benefit, clearly benefits, the massive monolithic global conglomerate pharmaceutical companies. But it ain't going to make public safety any safer. But in the end, we're losing our freedom. We're watching the rule of law be undermined and eroded. And we're losing our friends and neighbors who are leaving the state. And Leela from Inyo Kern had a really good question. What are we going to do? Well, one thing you got to do is you got to support people who have picked the fight. And I think the key litmus test issue of the 2016 presidential election needs to be the illegal invasion of our country. And if you're willing to stand up against it, you have my support. Now, that's not just Donald Trump. There's Cruz, there's a couple of them who have said, we will stand with you, the people of this country, and we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let our country be invaded. We're not going to allow our borders to be so porous as to not exist. 323-746-TALK. Take your calls right after this break. Hey, if you like shooting as much as I do, you've probably been to a lot of ranges. Unless you visited Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you've never seen anything like it. On the way there, you'll find yourself taking pictures as you traverse the majestic Azusa Canyon and wind your way up into the Angeles National Forest. With over 600 acres, including 19 private ranges, there's something for everyone. There's rifle and pistol ranges for beginners, right up to advanced shooters. And there's plenty of spaces to shoot sporting clay. You can make a family day of it, or you can bring a group for team building exercises. Bring a picnic lunch. On the weekends, they provide lunch. And don't worry, they always have ammo in case you forget yours or run out. One thing I can guarantee, is that once you visited my friends at Burrow Canyon Shooting Park, you'll be hooked and you'll keep coming back. BurrowCanyon.com is their website, or call them at 626-910-1344. 626-910-1344. You are listening to the Radio Free California Network. This is Tim Donnelly, your host, former California State Assemblyman and gubernatorial candidate. Crazy stuff going on today. Donald Trump, you just heard him on the news at the bottom of the hour. He is taking on every solitary serious issue related to the illegal invasion of our country. He's going after the entire birthright citizenship. And he's got a great point, because we can't afford to take care of the people who are in this country. We're not taking care of our veterans properly. California is home to more veterans than any other state, but Jerry Brown puts illegals ahead of veterans. Jerry Brown and the Marxist progressives would rather give California-style Obamacare to illegals, but screw the veterans. They have the longest waits at VA hospitals anywhere in the country, right here in California. I don't know how we haven't replaced him, and we're stuck with a guy that has that set of priorities. He doesn't want 40 million people to live in California. He wants to live back in the 1970s and smoke pot in the governor's the governor's office, and sleep on the floor and deny reality. The reality is there's almost 40 million people here, and a lot of them, my guess is something close to 10 million of the 40 million who live in California are illegally present. I could be wrong. I just take whatever number they tell us and triple it. Yes, that is my scientific method. But I'm curious, what do you think? Do you think that people who are born here, whose parents might literally step 1 foot across the border in labor, have the baby on what is now considered U.S. soil, because you're 1 foot over the actual delineated border? The fence isn't even on the border, by the way, just so you know. There's a whole other issue there between the international boundary and where they actually erect fences. They have two sets of fences. One is the primary border fence, and then you have an agricultural fence inside that. But what do you think? Do you think people who are born here, literally by happenstance or intentional happenstance of geography, ought to become U.S. citizens and get all of the benefits that citizens get? I'm curious, because this is an issue that is continuing to heat up. A friend of mine, Arizona Pinal County Sheriff Paul Babu, took Dr. Ben Carson on a helicopter tour and took him to the cartel sites. The cartels control vast swaths of the Arizona desert. There's places where Americans are told they can't go. As a matter of fact, there's a new movie out called Cartel Land that documents this, and it's fascinating because the director of the movie is a young liberal from the Northeast who thought he knew everything about illegal immigration. He thought he knew all about the issue, and he came down there to prove that those who are decrying the wide open borders and all the abuses of the cartels and all the other myriad side effects of having a wide open border, that they were all racist xenophobes and white nationalists or whatever the heck he had in his mind. And then he went there. And when he went there, he found a whole nother reality. We're going to go to the phones and find out your reality. Hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tim. I think it's kind of ridiculous at this point that, somebody can illegally come to this country, have a child, and they become legal. Didn't years ago we passed a law saying that if somebody committed something illegal, they couldn't profit from it? And, it's like Manson couldn't write a story about things he did because he would profit from it. So they actually enacted laws for that.
Good point.
But, so when somebody brings a child here, and, I've been saying this now since, I came home in 2006, back then when I was doing things in New Mexico, telling people that, Canada has no, time limit. They're patient. They can be here for a long time before they act. And, having childs here and children here and everything else. And, over time, they just, work their way into things. And, a lot of people focus on, or at least try to focus on the Hispanic or Mexican or whatever they want to call it and try to go that route. But, I worry more about the other people that are coming here that are, out to destroy this country. One of the captures I had in Iraq was actually Saddam's nephew, who had a driver's license from Michigan.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Here. No, I'm dead serious.
Wow.
He actually had a driver's license from Michigan, which we found to be pretty stupid that he actually, tried to, come onto the base with it, and thought that would be okay. And, it really kind of got me. So, he didn't go home that way, but not sure where he ended up. But, it was just one of the things that showed that, they come here, they can have a child, they get their passport. And we can't remember something else, too. They get a birth certificate. We don't know what they're going to do with the birth certificate. They can go back to another country and in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Just because that guy's got a birth certificate doesn't mean it's the same guy that was born here. We're just handing out paper. There's no way to prove who anybody is born in this country. It's becoming to the point where we really do need to take this stuff more serious. We can't just give our citizenships away. We did this back in the 17s, when a country was founded because we wanted to build a nation. We wanted to bring people in and start to build something, but there did come a point where we have to start looking at the fact that people want to come here to destroy us from within. We see it a lot of times. We're seeing it all over the place, not just people that are coming here and traveling, but now it's just, if somebody comes here, they have a baby, they get to use that for an excuse. And I saw a thing on the news today where a guy said, well, other than the fact that the person came here illegally, they've done nothing wrong. Okay, you just said they came here illegally.
Exactly.
They did something wrong. And I had a friend in Iraq who helped me capture some pretty serious people who had to go through a lot to become a U.S. citizen, including 7 years on a waiting list. He did it the right way. And he did it even after helping the United States had to go through this process. And, and once he did that, he had children here that are American citizens because he did it the right way. And it's unreal that, we have a system that allows this, that says, okay, you know what, if you can just get here, it don't matter. You can have that child while in custody, and that kid's going to be a citizen. Now you got an argument not to deport the parent. And look what's happening. There does come a point where we need to get rid of this, amendment and redo it.
And Mike, look, it's not just casual coincidence. You've literally got governments, foreign governments, who are advertising how to game our system, how to penetrate our border, how to blend into our society. Now, for some countries, it's about economic survival, and it's about getting those remittances. They want people to be working and sending money home, which then helps the economy in let's say, a depressed country, a war-torn country, or a country like Mexico that's controlled by the cartels. But you also have people who are learning all this, who are coming in, who are sympathetic to ISIS. And right. They could be activated. They might not be terrorists right now, but they could be activated very easily.
Yeah, they're called sleeper cells. But, if people really want to have an idea of what is going on, there's a movie called Salt, and it's got Angela Jolie. And if you watch that movie, I know a lot of people are going to say, yeah, it's just a movie. No, it actually is a reality. There are things like that go on. There are people, and I'm not going to tell everybody what it is because then I'd be giving away. But if you watch this movie, you will get an understanding of what other countries are doing, what Al-Qaeda is doing, what people like ISIS want to do, and other countries that are out to get us, and how they're bringing people here, and how they're doing things. And like I talked about, how you can switch an ID. It's in that movie. And, it may not be, it might be a fictional movie, but if you watch this movie, I'm telling you from my experience, this is a possibility, and it is some things that are actually going on.
Well, Mike, you always bring some new element of knowledge here to the Tim Donnelly Show. Grateful for your call and your service to this country. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more. Defending the fundamental freedom of parents to make informed decisions for their own children is a basic human right that should never be infringed. But it was. California's SB 277 denies children access to education and takes away a parent's right to choose. You don't have to be a parent to help, but only you can make a difference. Let's exercise the people's veto and overturn SB 277. To volunteer or donate, go to SB277referendum.com. That's SB277referendum.com. Do it now. Paid for by SB 277 Referendum Committee, FPPC ID number 1378398. You are listening to the Tim Donnelly Show, and surprise, surprise, I'm Tim Donnelly, former California State Assemblyman and governor candidate, and your host here every day, 3 to 6 p.m. on the Radio Free California Network. And it just keeps getting curiouser and curiouser. I'm going to take you away from California for a moment to the presidential election. So it's one of Obama's top strategists who's trying to draft Joe Biden now. And there are indications that Hillary's problems run a lot deeper than just emails. And I'm curious. We've put it out there on this show. We're happy to take your call if you're a Hillary Clinton supporter. But I'd love to hear from somebody who was supporting Hillary but maybe changing their mind. Doesn't mean you have to have already made up your mind. I'm just curious. I would like to know if there are any facts that could come out that would pull your support away from her. 323-746-TALK. We only have about 8 minutes left on the show, so you'll have to dial now if you want to get in. 323-746-8255. But she's, every time she turns around, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I think in large part because she didn't just come out and say it. She didn't come out and tell the truth at the beginning and just let the chips fall where they may. And maybe if she had done that, maybe, I'm not saying for sure, but if she had just deluged the media with all of the emails, just said, hey, look, I had them on a private server, feel free to check them out, and maybe remove the most sensitive personal ones that might have personal information. I mean, really, truly personal information. Then that certainly, we'd be having a very different conversation, I think. I don't think, well, we'll see what you think. Hey, welcome to the show.
Yes, am I on?
You are on air.
Yes, I wanted to ask you maybe in the future, and hopefully within a few days, that we can get down to the nitty-gritty of everyday life having to cope with these illegal aliens. There's a lot that goes on. it's due to the illegal aliens that I have lost my business because I could no longer compete with them. I had to carry bonds, insurances for my construction company, and pay through the nose, workers' comp and everything like that, just to be outbid by them and put out of business after 43 years of being in construction.
Wow.
But I've wound up now with nothing. I've lost my 2 properties. I've lost the business directly because of them, because I could no longer compete. I was in the San Gabriel Valley in Azusa for 24 years. And
what kind of construction were you in?
I did home repairs, structural repairs, commercial and residential, for many years. And it got to the point where they just outbid me to where I and talk about a net of $200,000 in the year of 89, and 90 it began to decline because we had that bubble. And then I never got above 45,000 after that, and finally I just had to shut it down. When the second bubble hit in 2008, that was it. I could not compete. I had my contract; they were signed, ready to go, canceled on me, and I lost out there.
Well, yeah, you can't compete when the playing ground is not only not level, but it's slanted against you, because you have a group of people who are being given basically carte blanche. They're a protected political class by both parties now, and you, sir, are fish bait.
Right.
They care more about the Delta smelt than you.
But now, getting down to the little things that we have to live with every day, we wind up in food lines now, and we're at a food line at a Christian church in Hesperia, and they gave us the goods, and there were, I guess, 2/3 were illegal aliens that were there. They were treated above us immediately, and that was on a Thursday. The following Saturday, we're driving down on a street in Hesperia, and we see this yard sale. We stop at the yard sale, and those same people that were at that food bank were selling the food at the yard sale.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you. That goes on all over up here.
That's for people who are struggling to put food on the table. That's not the purpose.
And I'm down to Social Security, and we have to now and then go to a food bank. We have no choice. And then to see that taking place, where they're selling these products that were given to them at a food bank, and then having a yard sale and selling this stuff, is just unbelievable.
Well,
we've seen it many times since.
It makes a lot of sense why, with Donald Trump opening up this raw nerve that is a wound, I think, in America, that people wanted to bury, they wanted to deny it, they wanted to cover it up, and it's now exposed to the light of day.
Yes.
And
I think it's time for people like me to speak up and tell what we have to see each and every day, just trying to make it through life with these people. For them to pull up next to you if you're driving a work truck and say, "What the hell are you doing taking our jobs from us?" They're saying that to the American people. It's just backwards.
Well, I'm grateful for your call. Hey, we are out of time. God bless you and Godspeed. Tim Donnelly Show, out.